Hi, Mark. Here, Monday, January the 19th, 10:20 a.m. Eastern. That's 3:20 p.m. GMT. US session well underway and into the last portion of the European session. Bear in mind, public holiday in the US today, Martin Luther King Day, which I believe will make for illiquid markets today, meaning the moves could be sharper and more exaggerated, and there certainly are contributing factors to that, being first and foremost the World Economic Forum in Davos in Switzerland, front and center being Greenland, NATO, Trump, um, could certainly all contribute to moving factors today. And because of the liquidity, I think that the moves could be sharp. We saw the stock markets, which are closed today, in futures trading. Markets are down already in the US session. Let's have a look at the US dollar index, and you can see being sold off right now, gapped lower to start. I've got resistance at 99.08. I've got support being tested at 98.84. Sellers in control right now. Weak US dollar as this US session does get going. We'll see whether that can be maintained and sellers break below this current support level around the 98.80, or if there is a turnaround, US dollar buyers do step in and we see a bounce of these levels looking back up at the 99 mark. For now, though, definitely weak US dollar. Let's have a look at the majors, starting on the euro. And there you can see green candlestick, buying euro, selling US dollar, weak US dollar so far against the euro. I've got support at 116.05. I've got resistance at 116.41. Buyers will look to maintain at around this 116.40 level, perhaps even higher if we continue to see US dollar weakness. If we get a turnaround to US dollar strength, a bounce down off this resistance area, looking back down at the 116. The pound against the US. There you see the solid green candlestick, a gap higher to start, just like the euro, and buyers testing the intraday resistance right now. That intraday resistance sitting at 134.23. I have support at 133.82. We'll see if buyers can continue. Buyers of pound, sellers of US dollar weakness continues. This intraday resistance level will be tested. If we're going to see a turnaround to strong US dollar, then a bounce down off this resistance area, and sellers will be looking below the 134 down to the 133.82. Let's have a look at the US dollar against the yen. There you see a somewhat different pattern, green candlestick, that's US dollar strengthening against the yen, against the weak yen. We've got support at 157.47. I've got resistance at 158.12. Strong US dollar to start against the yen, giving up some of those gains. We see a small wick there. We'll see whether the US turnaround can continue, can be maintained, and if sellers of US buyers of yen can get back below, back down and towards this 157.47. If the US dollar can maintain strength, be looking up at resistance at 158.12. But a different picture to the index, to the euro, and to the pound, where we clearly saw a weak US dollar. Here, the US dollar is showing some strength against a weak yen. Let's have a look at the US against the Canadian. And there you see certainly more in line with the European currencies. You can see US dollar being sold off against the Canadian. I've got resistance at 139.07 and I've got support right now at 138.60. Tough support to break. We'll see whether if we see continued US dollar weakness, if there's a break. If they can break below this support level or lower, again, if there's going to be a turnaround from weak to strong US dollar, buyers of US, sellers of Canadian will look for a bounce up of this support level. So we do have our levels to work with. All these levels being tested right now, uh, particularly with a weak US dollar to start. So we're seeing the support resistance levels being tested. We'll see whether that can be maintained and whether weak US dollar continues through the US session. Alternatively, if the US dollar fights back and bounces off those levels later into the day. The only currency we saw, the only major we saw where the US is uh, has made gains against the yen. We'll see whether that can be maintained. Good trading, and I'll see you at end of day.